I like doing my cycling at night. I consider it as part of my prepping and survivalism training. So there I was one night uh, doing my usual routine, cycling at night, going around rural areas. You see, I think it would be really beneficial for everyone, especially those who are into prepping and survivalism as a hobby, to learn to hike or to ride at night because it would really be best to move at night during a shit hits the fan scenario or a survival scenario. So there I was in the middle of the night, in the middle of nowhere, cycling, and following my usual route, I sort of got bored and thought of going to this barangay here in the Philippines that is known for being so quiet, solemn, and deserted at night. So I headed for that barangay. You see, on the way there, you will pass by a cemetery that is so huge that it is even considered as a necropolis. And this particular cemetery has a really old gate, really rusty and no longer being used. So on my way to the barangay, I passed by the old gate, and as usual it was closed. So I went my way and enjoyed the scenes, enjoyed the cold wind, enjoyed the sights, the old houses with copies, shell windows. And I took a break and thought of buying some water because I ran out of water. I've been cycling that night in other areas, that's why. So I bought the bottled water from a sari-sari store, and the lady in that particular store actually wondered why I was cycling alone and why I was cycling there at all. But I did not say anything about it, nor ask her about her concern. So I just paid for the bottled water and then went my way back. On my way back, all of a sudden there was this cyclist that went past me. I got a little bit curious and surprised because earlier the woman said that she would not usually see cyclists in her area at night. So I was wondering why there was that cyclist that went past me and overtaken me. So I followed that cyclist, and he was treading the usual path. So there was nothing really suspicious. I followed him and tried to overtake him, but then he took a turn left, which is actually not surprising because that's actually the correct way to go back to the city. But then again, when I went that way as well, I noticed there was this open gate. It was an old gate, rusty and all that. So I went there, and to my surprise, I was already inside the cemetery. I was really confused and surprised because I was supposed to bike a little bit more to get there, or at least to get to that particular area. near the cemetery, or the road beside the cemetery. I mean, I wasn't yet, I wasn't yet quite there at the time. So it was as if there was a sort of a wormhole that brought me there really, really fast. So I was inside the cemetery, so I was wondering how I could get out of it and how I could find the highway. You see, the necropolis was so huge that you could actually ride a motorcycle inside. There are pathways huge enough, in fact, for cars. So there I was, just cycling around it with my lights on, thankfully. And I found myself lost. I was lost, and so I stopped and tried to listen. Okay, listen and actually try to hear the sounds of the vehicles so I could go that direction and find the highway. So that's what I did for 15 minutes or so. 15 minutes of going around, 15 minutes of looking for a way out, and thankfully I could hear the sounds of cars from afar. So I tried to follow the sound, and next thing I knew, I was already in front of an old gate, rusty gate. That gate. But then it was open. It was open. So I went out and found myself in the highway. Up to now, I still don't know how I ended up in that cemetery during that ride. I simply followed that cyclist, took the right turn, and all of a sudden found myself in front of the gate of the cemetery and found myself inside it and struggling to come out of it. I'm just thankful that I got out. It was a month after that cemetery incident when I found myself once again cycling at night. Of course, as part of my prepping and survivalism training. You see, I wasn't bent on going there again or going that way again after what happened. But I was cycling inside the vicinity. So there I was, just minding my own business, riding. But I had to pass by the entrance to that solemn, silent, and serene barangay that we talked about the last time. I was supposed to turn left to get away from it, and I was to turn right if I wanted to go there. So I turned left. But before I reached the juncture, I saw a lady on a roller skate, and she was coming from the direction of that barangay and that cemetery. So there I was, riding my bike, and she was quite a distance away from me, but in front of me, and she took a right turn, the same direction where I was going. So what I did was I stopped and let her gain distance away from me. And after that, I began to follow her. I began to follow her because it was quite strange for me to see a young lady at that, wearing white short shorts and riding a roller skate in the middle of the night at around 11:30 p.m. And when was the last time you ever saw a person riding a roller skate? Well, I remember that roller skates were in fashion during the mid 90s or even late 90s. But recently, I have not been seeing people riding roller skates on the streets. It is more common to see people riding bicycles and skateboards even. So I followed her and made sure that there was enough distance between the two of us. She went her way, and there I was, following her. After a while, she turned right, going to this particular barangay called Santa Elena. I followed her and also turned right. I could see that she was holding a cell phone, but the cell phone was not a smartphone but rather a dumb phone. So I followed her and followed her as she went her way. When we got to this particular barangay called San Juan here in the Philippines, I decided to ride faster to overtake her. So that's what I did. I rode faster and I overtook her, planning to make a U-turn later on so I could catch a glimpse of her face. Anyway, there wasn't much motorists at that time and the road was pretty much deserted. So I overtook her and after some distance I made a U-turn and went back. But as I came across her, I could not see her face. I could not see her face at all. Her hair was all in front of her face. Well, she was looking down the road. So I found nothing unusual about it. So I decided to follow her again after letting her gain some distance from me. Although admittedly it felt like I was stalking her. No, I felt like I was a stalker that night. But then again, to hell with that. I didn't care. I was just really curious. Why would a young lady on a roller skate be riding great distances in the middle of the night or in the dead of the night? Where was she from? Where was she going? Those were my questions. And I also thought maybe there's nothing wrong with sort of escorting this young lady. So there I was, following her. We've been riding for quite some time, and she was just really so calm, just striding, and she was not in a hurry at all. And I could see that she was looking at her phone from time to time, and I noticed that we were already very far away from the city and that We passed by several barangays already. She kept on and on and on, and still I followed her. She went on and even got past Barit Bridge, heading towards another town called Buhit. I thought to myself, damn it, she's going to Buhi. That's another town. Who would ride roller skates in the middle of the night to get to another town? And to think she came from that direction of that barangay and that cemetery. So when I got to Barit Bridge, I decided to stop. I decided to rest and just listen. I thought for a while that maybe she knew I was following her and maybe she felt afraid and decided to just ride and ride. So after a while, I followed her again, going to that direction, going to that other town. But the road was clear. She was nowhere to be seen. She was gone.